Hare Krishna, and a very warm welcome to the 2024 Valentine's Day talk brought to you by the ISKCON Vaishnavi Ministry. Today we are joined by Uttama and Partha Prabhus from the Grihastha Vision Team, who will be speaking to us on the topic of understanding our values. Partha and Uttama Prabhus have been married since 1971 and took initiation together from Srila Prabhupada in 1973. They share 3 creative children and 8 grandchildren. They currently reside in Saranagati Dhama, Canada. They are the founding members of the Grihastha Vision Team since 2004. Together, they have facilitated Grihastha Vision Team seminars in South Africa, Ireland, England, India, Trinidad, Guyana, Brazil, Chile, Russia, and many European countries, along with Canada and the US. Uttama Prabhu has taken relationship education training from Prepare and Enrich Canada, Dasi Ziyad Family Institute, and Compassion Power. She also has Gottman Level 2 clinical couples training and is a graduate of the Developmental model of couples therapy training under Ellyn Bader Ph.D. at the Couples Institute. Partha Prabhu is solemnized to perform legal marriages by the province of British Columbia, which he has done after sufficiently counseling the couples. He is certified by the Dasi Ziyad Family Institute to administer the Vaishnavi 108 infantry and premarital and marriage spiritual strengths-based relationship program, along with skill-building courses by various other marital therapists, including Level 1 Gottman clinical couples therapy. Thank you both so much for taking out the time from your busy schedules to be with us today and share your valuable wisdom. Before we go any further, we'd like to begin by inviting Srila Prabhupada into the room just by saying his pranam mantras. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya,
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvashesha Sunyavadi Pastancha Desha Tarane.
All right. So with us approaching Valentine's Day, I think the burning question is going to be, how do you find your Valentine? So how do you basically engage in healthy conversations, specifically with a partner, around values and identifying if they're actually the person for you?
So would you use a Ouija board, or would you hold a crystal pendulum on a little string in front of them, see if that works? Or probably not. We have one resource our group developed. It's on our website. There's a list of questions for a couple getting to know each other. There's over 100 different questions, and every time they get together, they can discuss 1 or 2 items, and it's very much about different types of values and things that may or may not be important to someone in their life, and how much importance and value they attribute to those different items in the questionnaire. And we get a lot of feedback from couples. They found it extremely helpful in getting to know each other and getting to, to meet someone. And we've also encountered a few individuals who say when they went through that, they discovered that, well, actually they had some issues where their values were quite opposed, and they could see that would make the relationship, difficult. So they decided not to pursue that relationship. So that can be a very helpful starting point for couples who are looking for a Valentine who's going to be compatible with their values. It's a very good tool. And also, it was something that Srila Prabhupada desired. He also wanted couples who maybe they met on Valentine's Day and were thinking about getting married. He wanted them to get some mentorship before getting married. Prabhupada actually, in 1971, he wrote a letter and he said, I will only sanction marriages if the couples have received some training or mentorship from a senior Grihastha couple. And so that's something the Grihastha Vision Team is trying to introduce, and is introduced in some places in the world, systems of mentorship, which can help couples get to know each other more deeply, can help them to communicate in more meaningful, positive ways so they can actually understand each other and honor their differences and work things out and also understand their strengths and weaknesses. So there's many different, if you want to use the word, tools that can be used to help you in developing those kind of relationships we're looking for.
So if you just Google Grihastha Vision Team premarital questions, they will pop up. What I find is that very often we have romanticized perceptions of the types of people we want to marry. And it's not necessarily that we're looking for our values. We just have these preconceived romantic ideas. However, when we go through the questions with the person, we can see, oh, they have different values than me. This doesn't sound so romantic as I thought. So we actually find the real substance of the person. I think sometimes we have difficulty finding partners because we're looking for just some external characteristics that we think would be nice. But often it's the values and the substance underneath, which is really going to make that lasting connection where you can feel like-minded enough to pursue your spiritual endeavors together.
Prabhupada described that in relationship to the pastime of Kardama Muni and Devahuti, where he described how couples would be matched according to character and taste. So that's very important that couples get to know their own character and their own taste and their prospective partner's character and taste to help them develop a healthy match. And you don't want to have those unrealistic expectations of overly romanticized fantasies. One of my godbrothers, he told me once, before he was married, before he was a devotee, he was just praying to God, I want to marry the most beautiful wife. That was his only prayer. I want to marry the most beautiful woman in the world. And he ran into some beautiful lady, got married 2 days later, and 2 weeks later they were divorced. So something was wrong in his vision and his aspiration, obviously. So we do want to be a little more deep and introspective than that to save ourselves from a lot of grief and heartbreak.
So I think my next thing is then, how do you work past the emotions in that sense? Because like you said, sometimes you engage in a deeper conversation with somebody and you realize this is not such a great fit according to the picture I had in my head. So how do you reconcile that? Like not be in la la land, but keep yourself a little bit more grounded so you don't run away with some idealistic picture.
That's why we do want to find a person with our heart, and we also want to use our intelligence. So we do want to have some heartfelt feeling towards that person. And with our intelligence, we need to see if our personalities are in alignment, if our values are in alignment, and if our lifestyle is in alignment. Because it's hard to live a lifestyle that's just not your nature. And we do need somewhat compatible personalities. People can be nice, but we have to be, you want to live with someone who's compatible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they say opposite attract, but they also say, but they don't necessarily live very well together. So we want to use our intelligence. And that's why we do offer premarital education to couples. And I try to go into the high schools in the devotee community and also teach the necessary things that you need to look for with a partner so that when the time comes, maybe the heart's racing, but you'll take a little break and see, do we have this, compatibility that's there? Do we take the time to check if the person can be trustworthy and reliable before we commit, not like my husband's friend here.
Yeah, in today's world, there's so much emphasis on chemistry and chemistry alone. And the problem, if there needs to be chemistry in a healthy relationship, chemistry, yes, it should be there.
But sometimes it comes later.
Yeah,
That's
sometimes
okay
it comes
too.
later. However, if there's too much focus on chemistry, and if the chemistry moves a couple into some kind of physical intimacy before they get to know each other, that can be very problematic because the chemistry can become very strong if there's some physical intimacy, and one may even miss many red flags that are actually waving in front of their face that this, wait a minute, you better take a look at this. People won't be able to see it because they've kind of got too infatuated, which is why in most cultures, in religious cultures, it's recommended that you wait until you're married before engaging in any kind of intimacy, because you want to be sure to make that very strong commitment.
So you've mentioned compatibility, and I read a quote somewhere actually that said that compatibility is actually something that's created. Is there validity in this statement, or is it just that you got to sort of be compatible right off the bat?
It can be created by your shared activities, your kindness, your trust, your having some shared meaning in life. And then there's the kind of compatibility where your inherent nature is just so different than the other person's that neither one of you can or should change. It's just the way you are. And I think we have to just step back and see which one of these it is.
Just as a footnote to that, in all relationships, generally goes through the honeymoon stage where the couple, they do feel that chemistry and attraction and everything's so wonderful, and maybe they even understand each other and their values, and so there can be a high degree of compatibility. At the same time, we're all very unique individual spirit souls with different kinds of quirks and idiosyncrasies. And it's inevitable for all couples at a certain point in the development of the relationships, you're going to discover when the chemistry kind of wears off that, well, maybe those idiosyncrasies are a little annoying to you. And at that stage, often in relationships, each of the couple may start to think that everything is going to be perfect if you change. No, you, like new you. And they lock horns trying to change each other. And so some things in our nature we can modify, but there's some things just who we are as very unique spirit souls. So in a healthy marriage, it's important to understand within ourselves and within our partner, what is just integral to who they are as a spirit soul, and what are the things that they can change, and what are the things that I can change and I can't change. And at that point, the couple needs to have some very deep, honest conversations about who they are and how they can manage those situations. And by healthy communication, couples can learn to respect the differences. And then they can develop a synergy. They can dance, eat together, even though occasionally they may step on each other's toes, but they know how to move together as a team. Whereas couples who don't learn to get that healthy communication, they just end up bumping into each other. And unfortunately, some couples divorce just because they don't have the skills to communicate,
navigate through the differences.
to navigate through those differences. And that's important footnote. That's an important footnote in all marriages. They're going to go through that growing stage. It's 100% normal.
So I think from what you're saying is that communication and this teamwork is so vital in any marriage.
And before marriage.
I'd just like to maybe, yeah, well, actually across the board, across the life of the relationship, I suppose, those two aspects are very important. But I'd like to just zone in perhaps a little bit in terms of from a Krishna conscious or a devotee perspective, is there something more to that? Is there sort of some specifics maybe that should also be aligned? Is there maybe more values that we need to look at in terms of being devotees? Or would this sort of thing in terms of communication and teamwork be enough?
In the Grihastha Vision Team, we developed a set of 12 principles and values, and we've talked about some of them, about appreciation and respect, and open and honest communication is also very important. And also, it's a very important spiritual activity. According to Rupa Goswami, two of the recommended exchanges in loving devotion is to reveal your mind in confidence and hear in confidence. And that is extremely important and crucial in relationships, whether it's friendship, and especially in close relationships like marriage, to have that very healthy and open and honest communication. Because often couples and individuals are having some dialogue, maybe about something they disagree on. And, I might be speaking to you and you might be speaking to me. And while you're speaking to me, I have an internal dialogue going on how I'm going to just defeat all your points. Well, was that communication? Probably not. I probably wasn't really receiving your communication if there's some internal dialogue going in my head. So real communication means that I hear you with respect, and I can come to a point where I can say, I can understand why you feel and believe the way you do. I might not agree, but I can understand and I can respect that. That's communication. And in terms of Vaishnava relationships, also in terms of disagreements, if we can learn to understand each other, the research shows that generally what couples are fighting about is they don't understand each other. There might be a certain issue on the table. This is the issue on the table, and we're having some argument about that. But when you don't understand each other, it starts to look like that, some huge, overwhelming problem. But when you can understand each other from two different perspectives, the problem just becomes a little bit more removed and a lot easier to deal with. And in terms of Vaishnava theology, we understand, again, Rupa Goswami is recommending a loving exchange of devotional service, to hear and to speak respectfully and lovingly, even if it's about something we disagree with. And in terms of Vaishnava theology, if we engage in that loving devotional service of understanding each other, even if we disagree, in devotional service, we understand that the ocean of material existence shrinks to the amount of water in the hoofprint of a calf. So when we can actually have those open and honest dialogues, especially in terms of our spiritual nature and that quest for understanding each other respectfully, the problems become either much more manageable or sometimes they just practically disappear.
Radhika, you were bringing up relationships amongst devotees. And we've seen over the years that every devotee doesn't have the same mood and way in which they apply their devotional service. And so in the beginning, because there wasn't very many devotees, we thought, well, as long as the person's a devotee, we'll be compatible. But you were alluding to the fact that that's not enough compatibility. It's a great start, but there needs to be a little bit more in terms of your personality, your values, your lifestyle, like that.
Yes, definitely. I think sometimes we narrow down our criteria, or we have a too romanticized idea of our criteria. And that's where the issues start, because then we sort of have those love shutters in front of our eyes, and then all common sense really just goes out the window.
Right.
So I think it's irrespective of whether we're devotees or not, we always have to come with that sense of intelligence, as you were saying. You always have to have that intelligence. You can't just go with the heart.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And again, that intelligence should be looking for, as Srila Prabhupada said, someone of like taste and character. So that's really what our our aspiration or the story we're telling ourselves or image, not too ethereal kind of vague things, but really looking for someone with very similar values. And again, if we don't know our own values, how are we going to find someone who's compatible with our values if we haven't even defined our own values? So it is very important to be mature enough in life to try to understand what my values are.
So you need to know the values of your Valentine.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time and for these wonderful insights and your wisdom. I hope that's also helped all of us along our journey to find our Valentine, not just with our hearts, but with our brains, so that we can have more holistic relationships, I think, with each other, but also a strong relationship with Krishna. I think that's actually what we're going for, and marriage is such a huge component of that.
Yes. Thank you for saying that.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.